This is a paid advertisement for Napoli Shkolnik, PLLC.
Welcome to today's program. I'm Dr. Wendy Walsh, and with me today is renowned attorney Marie Napoli, founding partner of the Napoli Shkolnik law firm. And we're here today to talk specifically about personal injury law and the important contribution it makes to those who suffer injury due to the negligent actions of others. Marie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Marie, I'm sure there are people watching who may have an injury, but they think, I can't afford a big firm like Napoli Shkolnik. Does that happen?
That happens all the time. But I explained to them we're a contingency firm. That means that we don't take any money up front. We just get a percentage of what we win for them.
And I know you're too modest to say it, a little too humble, but your firm has reclaimed $3 billion in settlements for your clients.
Yes, we have. And a lot of that is due to the size of the mass torts that we're handling. And what's good about that is the number of people that we're helping with that money.
Yeah, it's an impressive story learning about your firm. Now, obviously, Napoli Shkolnik has become a major force in the area, specifically, as we've been saying, of personal injury. And I understand that now you've gone national, that your firm may have started in New York, but that you have offices around the country. How does this help clients?
Well, it helps clients because a lot of the claims on these bigger kinds of class actions or mass torts, the plaintiffs are injured throughout the country. So if there's a water contamination case, like we're handling right now, PFOA, which is a contaminant that's getting into the water from firefighting foam and from Teflon, and it's really affecting the water throughout the country. So we'll have clients throughout the country, which goes to a centralized MDL. Same thing with defective knee implants, defective hip implants, drugs like the opioid epidemic. We'll have clients throughout the country, and it's better to have hands all around the country so you can have that individual personal contact.
You talk about being nationally based. You talk about having the financial clout to really go after these companies. But you're also known for a highly personal approach. How rewarding is it to know that you've helped a person receive not just compensation, but also justice?
Well, this is very meaningful because putting someone back on their feet after they've been knocked down is important not only to compensate them, but help them to feel empowered again. And giving them justice is really helping them to heal. So, and I think we do that for all of our clients, and they seem to be very grateful for that.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I'd like to read just a few examples of letters from your clients. In the words of your clients, I'd like you to hear what they have to say about your firm. Our first is named Robert M. He's a retired fire department New York lieutenant. He says he has worked with your firm on several occasions over the years, and that the attorney he worked with has great knowledge of the Fire Department of New York procedures and the law, and he feels that you are one of a kind. He says, I feel my legal matter benefited from his knowledge, and I would recommend him and the firm without hesitation. How does that make you feel?
That makes me feel wonderful, and it's really the most important thing about what we do and why we do it. This one attorney he happens to be speaking about was a firefighter. So it's very important to have attorneys working in areas that they have understanding of the underlying facts.
And I think in the next letter, that same attorney also helped out. The client's name is Richard M. He's also retired Fire Department of New York lieutenant. He says, working with Steve Holohan has made my legal case seamless. Each step of the way, he has explained the process in terms I can understand. His time as a firefighter has served him well, as he knows the ins and outs of what we go through in the firehouse and on the job. And one from another one, a client, Mary R., who says, thank you for your tireless support and professional expertise throughout my case. The highly skilled Napoli Shkolnik team emerged victorious. That must feel good. Those are great compliments to work with. How does it feel?
I love to get the letters from the clients. It means more to me than our fees or any kind of recovery. This is the most important thing in their lives, and you have to remember that when you're litigating their case. You think about what was the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me in my life and treat that client with the same respect that you would want it for yourself. And if you do that for each individual client, then I think you can keep that personal touch. And I remind the office, and that's one of our mottos of the office, that each individual case has to be given the attention as if it happened to you.
That's got to be really important information for people to hear. I'm here with attorney Marie Napoli. We've got more for you coming up. Stay with us.
Firefighters, police officers, nurses, teachers, construction workers, parents. You are all superheroes. But where do heroes go when they've been seriously injured as the result of another? They go to Napoli Shkolnik. Napoli Shkolnik fights for justice for heroes like you. Were you injured on the job? Hurt in an accident that wasn't your fault? If you've been seriously injured as the result of another, call Napoli Shkolnik. Because when you're hurt, even heroes need help. Napoli Shkolnik, fighting for you and your rights against the multi-billion-dollar insurance companies. With personal injury settlements exceeding $3 billion, nobody will work harder to get you, the true superhero, the compensation you deserve.
We are Napoli Shkolnik. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, there is only one firm to call to get you the compensation that you deserve, and that's Napoli Shkolnik.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dr. Wendy Walsh with renowned attorney Marie Napoli. We're talking about personal injury law, and it's something that can affect many people, can't it?
It certainly can.
Marie, I'm sure it's so difficult for many of your clients who are dealing with the medical ramifications of personal injury and at the same time, the emotional fortitude to seek justice against those who are negligent. Now, as a result of your great work, your firm has received so many awards and accolades. Do you have an award that is your favorite?
I think we have had so many awards, U.S. News and World Reports, Best of the Best law firms, Top 10 AV Prix, eminent lawyers. The list goes on, but I think one of my favorite ones that we've been nominated to Who's Who in America, which goes back to the early part of the century, and they have a capsule now buried in the backyard of the White House. So
your name forever.
Name forever. So I think that's one of the most interesting awards that we have.
Well, you deserve it. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of today's show, our topic is personal injury law. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. First of all, Marie, can you define the term for our viewers?
Well, negligence is defined. There are three elements. There's duty, breach of duty that caused someone injuries. So, and the duty may just be not to hurt somebody else. But there's a number of ways that you can define duty, whether it's not to hurt someone else or if there's a statute that says you can't do this. And that's negligence. And that is a theme throughout all of personal injury law.
That's really helpful information to those who have suffered injury and, as we mentioned, say, auto, truck, or boating accident. Does your firm also handle cases for people injured in, I keep hearing about these slip and fall accidents, whether they take place in supermarkets or even on a sidewalk? Is this also your area of specialty?
We definitely do handle these slip and fall cases, and there are different forms of liability, whether it's on a street or whether it's in a supermarket. If someone falls on the sidewalk, there may be a crack on the sidewalk. There may have been something caused to be on the sidewalk that caused the accident that someone put there. And the same thing, even in a supermarket. If someone slips and falls in a supermarket and they fell on a grape, well, how long has the grape been there? If it's been there right in front of the cash register for 2 hours and they should have seen it and cleaned it up and they didn't, then that would also be negligence. So there's a lot of different variations on the slips and falls to find whether someone is negligent. If someone falls over their own feet, no.
Well, thank goodness for cameras so that you can determine. And those, we're making light of it, but there are some very serious injuries suffered by people who slip and fall that occur because of the negligence of, as you mentioned, the property owners.
I've had broken hips, hip replacements, and I've even had some elderly clients that once they fell, they never recovered and passed away. So it's not a laughing matter, but there are a lot of different ways that a slip and fall can occur and a lot of different ways to determine whether or not someone's liable.
Thanks, Marie. So could you explain what a victim's basic rights are?
Well, a victim who is hurt because of someone else's negligence, they have a right to be compensated for it. So they should seek legal compensation. And generally, our firm doesn't charge any fee to give a consultation to let them know whether or not someone else was at fault. A lot of times people don't know if their injury was somebody else's fault. If something was left on the ground or there was a hole in the ground, they don't know if they were injured due to that, they don't know whether or not that's something that they could be compensated for. And of course, usually it is.
I'm sure so many people suffer injuries as a result of the actions of others, and they need help, but they don't know exactly where to turn. Is there a typical scenario that leads clients to your firm? Like I'm thinking about maybe people in automobile accidents, truck accidents, boating accidents. Is this stuff common?
Well, unfortunately, that's very common. They happen every single day. I've been in this business my whole life, and my father 50 years before that. So I am known in the industry, in the area, and people just come to you. Also, clients that have had positive results will refer their friends to come to you. So that's generally how we get introduced to them. But since we started handling these mass tort actions, a lot of the plaintiff law firms are not equipped to deal with them, and we are. So law firms refer us those cases.
It's fascinating, the work you do, Marie, that changes lives. Are there any other areas of personal injury that you work in?
Well, there are a number of other ones, but one I'm very interested in right now is the vaping epidemic that's going on, really focusing on our children to get them addicted at a young age. I don't know if you were aware, but they had gone into the schools under the guise of educating these students and taught them how to use it, showed them the different flavors, and asked the teachers to be removed from the room so that the children would be comfortable talking to them about drugs and smoking, and said, well, this isn't for you, but this is how you use it, and it comes in all these flavors, and basically marketing them to the kids.
But addiction itself can be considered an injury when it's a minor, right?
Of course. They're addicting young children to make them money for years to come. And we all know the harms of smoking. And the vaping also has little metal pieces that can get into your lungs. So there are a myriad of injuries. And to do it to these children at such a young age, we're very interested in pursuing those claims.
It's egregious. It's amazing how you have the ability with your firm to change lives. I'm with attorney Marie Napoli, and we're talking personal injury. We'll have more when we return.
Firefighters, police officers, nurses, teachers, construction workers, parents. You are all superheroes. But where do heroes go when they've been seriously injured as the result of another? They go to Napoli Shkolnik. Napoli Shkolnik fights for justice for heroes like you. Were you injured on the job? Hurt in an accident that wasn't your fault? If you've been seriously injured as the result of another, call Napoli Shkolnik. Because when you're hurt, even heroes need help. Napoli Shkolnik, fighting for you and your rights against the multi-billion-dollar insurance companies. With personal injury settlements exceeding $3 billion, nobody will work harder to get you, the true superhero, the compensation you deserve.
We are Napoli Shkolnik. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, there is only one firm to call to get you the compensation that you deserve, and that's Napoli Shkolnik.
Welcome back to our show. I'm Dr. Wendy Walsh with renowned attorney Marie Napoli, and we're talking about personal injury law. Are there cases where catastrophic injuries occur due to the negligence of others?
Of course, it happens all the time, especially at construction sites, bus accidents, train accidents, where the impacts are so heavy. I have a client just the other day, we had a multi-million-dollar recovery for her where she lost the lower part of her left leg when she was pinned by a truck. So, and that was a life-altering experience for her and her family. But we were able to get her the money to make her life a bit easier.
What about defective products? What are people's rights and how can Napoli Shkolnik help them?
We handle defective products on a mass scale and on individual case. So if there's an individual case where someone's at a gym and there's something wrong with the machines and it hits their eye and they're blind, people have a right not to be injured by defective products that people put on the market. And they should be sure that they're properly screened and before they put it out for the public to use.
Well, I guess anybody who has been injured by a defective product can be reassured to know that your firm is ready to help them if they've suffered that type of injury. You know, a growing problem for many people who have entrusted loved ones to nursing homes is something we've been reading a lot about in the news lately, elder abuse or nursing home abuse. How did your firm address that?
We stand up for the rights of nursing home abuse victims and their families. And that's one of the most traumatic events that a family could have, that they have to have their parent or loved one in a nursing home and that they're being abused or neglected. Having bed sores and needing medication, having to go to the bathroom and no one coming to assist them. These are all terrible forms of abuse that not only strip them of their will to live, but strip them of their dignity. So we are there to make sure that these families are compensated, but hold the nursing home and those staff at the nursing home responsible so that actions don't continue. I can give you an example. I have a client who was in a nursing home and unable to go to the bathroom on her own. She was calling and calling and calling, and they never came, so she attempted to go on her own. She fell down, broke her hip. She had to be rehabilitated. She never really was rehabilitated, and she ultimately passed away. So nursing homes the patients are so vulnerable that if they're neglected or mistreated, it could be the end of their life. And this is your mother, my mother, people very dear to our heart.
It's heartbreaking. I'm sure anybody who has a loved one in nursing care or assisted living can appreciate that Napoli Shkolnik is prepared to take on those nursing homes and change things for the future. I'm with attorney Marie Napoli, and we're talking personal injury. We'll have more when we return.
Firefighters, police officers, nurses, teachers, construction workers, parents. You are all superheroes. But where do heroes go when they've been seriously injured as the result of another? They go to Napoli Shkolnik. Napoli Shkolnik fights for justice for heroes like you. Were you injured on the job? Hurt in an accident that wasn't your fault? If you've been seriously injured as the result of another, call Napoli Shkolnik. Because when you're hurt, even heroes need help. Napoli Shkolnik, fighting for you and your rights against the multi-billion-dollar insurance companies. With personal injury settlements exceeding $3 billion, nobody will work harder to get you, the true superhero, the compensation you deserve.
We are Napoli Shkolnik. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, there is only one firm to call to get you the compensation that you deserve, and that's Napoli Shkolnik.
Welcome back to our program. I'm Wendy Walsh. With me is Marie Napoli, founding partner of the Napoli Shkolnik Law Firm. And joining us now is Hill Harper, executive director of Napoli Shkolnik. Hill is a humanitarian, an actor, an author, an entrepreneur, and I know you're too modest to say this, but I have to say it, Hill, honors graduate of Harvard Law School.
My mother would be very proud of that.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that.
So one of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of is Napoli Shkolnik works a lot in personal injury, but also in social justice and environmental. Tell us more about that.
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I couldn't be more proud to sit here with Marie and to talk about Napoli Shkolnik. The work that first connected me with the firm was the work we're doing in Flint, Michigan. And you talk about environmental law, but you can also talk about civil rights law, and sometimes they conflate. You know, if you're somebody like me who believes that you have a right to actually brush your teeth without being poisoned, you have a right for your kids to have a clean glass of drinking water, that's a civil rights issue, but it's also an environmental issue because the water has been poisoned. And so to the work that we've been doing there, we can get into it much deeper, has, I think, transformative and very important because it's this area, the legal system is that barrier of representing folks who quite often have the least ability to represent themselves. They have the least power. Oftentimes you'll see in environmental harm cases, the communities that are usually targeted the most are the ones who have the least ability to fight back. So having a firm like Napoli Shkolnik and the power and the experience they have, the ability to take on large, whether it's governments or major corporations, and fight back over periods of time, which it takes a lot of resources, it takes an extreme amount of organizing, and it takes just a diligence to stay with it and a confidence to stay with it, is something that I'm very proud of to be a part of.
Hill, can you talk to us about some of the civil rights cases you've been working on?
Sure. You know, one case is a case of John Ramsey, who spent 33 years of his life incarcerated for a crime he didn't commit. And he just wants his name cleared at this point. He wants the conviction completely vacated. We've been working on that, we've been fighting for that. The interesting thing we've been able to actually uncover is that the district attorney withheld exculpatory evidence in the case during the original trial. And this is something we're going to keep fighting and fighting and fighting for, and we're going to win it.
Just heartbreaking. You know, I know your firm is very passionate about environmental issues. Can you tell us what kinds of environmental cases your firm represents?
Well, in addition to the work we're doing in Flint around, obviously, the lead in the water, another case is Newburgh, New York, which is a case where we found the groundwater was poisoned. Marie's doing active work on that, and she can speak to that.
So it's a PFOA, it's a contaminant, and PFOS. It's a contaminant found in the waters that come from firefighting foam and from Teflon. And so when the firefighters do testing, they do drills to put out gas. You can't put out gasoline fires with water, so it's a chemical that locks together and smothers the fire. But the problem with it is that it contaminates the water, it sinks down, leaches into our water systems, and it's a carcinogen, and it causes all kinds of health problems. And this has been, and the creators of Teflon and of PFOA, PFOS knew that this was a carcinogen many years ago.
Since the 1970s.
Since the 1970s, and there are other substitutes to use that would work. It's a chemical that doesn't degrade, and it bioaccumulates in the water. So all of us have it in our bodies. Yeah. You have it, I have it, you have it. It's a major problem. So the water districts are forced to clean this up, and who flips that bill is the taxpayers. So we were representing the water districts and communities that are being forced to clean this up out of their waters that will not only help us all not to get cancer and sick, but also to put the onus on the person on the group of people that created this problem.
And we also represent the individuals that have been harmed, specifically where we can tie back, because the incidence of cancer in a place like Newburgh through the roof, right? And so we can tie that harm, that issue, the PFOAs and PFOS, to the individual harm as well.
It was a moneymaker.
Yeah.
That's why they used it.
And I understand there's a case on Long Island.
Beth Page.
Bethpage is where Grumman used to have their buildings and their offices, and they did a lot of government work, and the land has been completely contaminated. They did a lot of work for the Army and the Navy, and the cancer rates in that area, Long Island, are very high. So we are now going after Grumman to compensate the people in that area for the damage that they've caused to Long Island, not only the ground, but the water supply. So they say Long Island has the highest cancer rates than anywhere in the country. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Grumman was there.
Certain communities tend to litigate less if you harm them, because if they don't sue, it's okay to harm them. At least that's the way some of these corporations think. And that's why firms like Napoli Shkolnik have to exist. We have to fight back. We have to use the muscle of the court system to fight back, because oftentimes it's the only remedy that's out there.
But I would say, even though I hear about the hard work and being appointed by federal judges and the huge amount of resources that you have and really smart attorneys, it's really your hearts that I see here today, that you really care.
Well, you can't put this much time, effort, money, work into something unless you really love what you do. And I think I can speak for Hill, and I can speak for all the attorneys at my firm, that we love what we do, because in the end, what we're doing is helping people that aren't able to help themselves.
If somebody's out there suffering, either because a corporation has made their water toxic, or because they're being discriminated against, or because there's some faulty medical product, or they've injured themselves due to somebody else's negligence, what do you say to them?
Call us. I mean, at the end of the day, I turn on social media. I don't know about you, but I'll turn on my Instagram and I'll see a picture of a young man being brutalized by police, or I'll see a picture of someone in a horrific accident, or see somebody who's suffering of cancer, who's trying to post from the intensive care unit saying, "Stay strong." Oftentimes people think that things that happen to them is their fault, and oftentimes it's not. Oftentimes you can sort of trace back fault, and in many ways, people who are just trying to live the best life they can get caught up in circumstances that it's not their fault, and there are bigger things at play. And we're here to sort of help people figure that out.
And what I would say to them is, you just worry about getting yourself better, and we'll take care of everything else.
Well said. Well, thank you to both of you for being on the show today, Attorney Hill Harper and Marie Napoli of Napoli Shkolnik Law Firm, with offices here in New York and across the country. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. If you or a loved one has been injured, I want you to do something today. I want you to pick up the phone and call the number on your screen. For more information, at least. You have nothing to lose, because you will receive a free, caring case review. Thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Wendy Welsh.
This is a paid advertisement for Napoli Shkolnik, PLLC.